Hello, friends, and welcome to the Bikes or Death podcast. My name is Patrick, and I'm your host. And this is the show that talks about bikepacking, adventuring, and the cool people who participate. And if you read the title, you know that today's guest is none other than Kurt Refsnider. I caught up to him after the Colorado Trail Race, which he won this year. And by winning that, he actually became the first person to win the Triple Crown of Bikepacking. And if you don't know what that is, we're going to go into detail, and we're going to talk about that. When I caught up to him, he was just off of the Colorado Trail Race, and he was camping and about to head out on a bikepacking trip. But he was gracious enough to give me some of his time, and I genuinely appreciated that and really enjoyed the conversation. He is quite an impressive human and athlete. I left the conversation feeling very inspired, very grateful for the work that he's doing with Bikepacking Roots. He has just done so much for bikepackers and the community, and is continuing to do so. And this is just a great episode. I really enjoyed the opportunity to get to know Kurt a little bit better, and I really enjoyed our conversation about bikepacking routes. Public lands is something that is near and dear to my heart. Being from Texas, only like 3% of our land is public. So it's something that I'm very aware of and very grateful for, and really excited for the things that he's doing, and grateful that he's championing that over at Bikepacking Roots with his great team. I think we have a really great conversation, and I hope that you enjoy it as much as I did. Well, this is episode 25 of the Bikes or Death podcast, and I just wanted to take a moment and express my gratitude to everyone for listening, for supporting the show, for sending me messages, and just everything. I mean, when I started this, I started it in November of last year, so it hasn't even been a year yet. And when I started it, my thought was I'll do one a month. So, 12 a year. We're sitting at 25, and it hasn't even been a year yet. So I just wanted to acknowledge the fact that this is absolutely a result of everybody who is doing all those things that I just said. I definitely feel the love, I feel the encouragement, and it makes me want to go out and produce a great show and bring you all amazing guests and hopefully really in-depth and interesting and fun conversations. I just wanted to say thank you. I don't know if I do that enough. A lot of times I feel like I'm just asking y'all to support me and not really saying thank you, but I do appreciate it. I feel very fortunate to put information out there that is important to me and have it so well received by a community that I really care about. And I feel lucky to be able to sit down with these people. I mean, I get tons of messages from people saying how inspired they are, and I am among you. I mean, I definitely, you can't talk to these people for hours and walk away and be like, didn't move the needle for me. I am definitely inspired. I'm inspired to be outdoors more. I'm inspired to be on my bike more, to find out what my potential is. I'm inspired to just have fun and enjoy it and stay in the moment. And I'm inspired to continue to make a great podcast. So again, thank you. It really means a lot. And I appreciate that so many people are out there listening. Well, listen, if you do want to show me some love and you want to support this show and the content that is coming to you for free, then do me a favor and stick around to after the show. I use that opportunity to just talk to you about ways that you can support the show, and also just maybe what's going on with Bikes or Death or anything else like that. So if you're interested in that, please stick around. For now, the only thing that I will ask is if you will head over to iTunes and leave a review. It is very helpful in getting exposure and helping people to find it. So if you would take a moment to go do that, let your friends know, share it on social media or whatever, and just help me get the word out. If you like this content and you think it's valuable, then let's help spread that word. All right, that's all I got for you. Stick around till after the show if you want more, but for now, let's get to it. Just for fun, let's say you are at a fancy cocktail party and somebody asks you, what do you do? How do you respond?
Man, well, first I'd be so out of my element at a fancy cocktail.
I know, that's why it's funny.
Not my style at all.
Picturing you like in a 3-piece button down, sipping on a cocktail, and then some guy asks you, he's like, "So, what do you do, Kurt?"
Well, that is a hard question to answer at this point. For the last, 6 years, I guess I'd say that I'm a professor. I taught earth science, like mostly geology and climate change, at Prescott College, a little funky college in Arizona, and I actually just left that job at the end of this past academic year, so just a couple months ago. And aside from that, I've also been running a kind of mountain bike oriented endurance coaching business for going on 4 years now, and co-founded Bikepacking Roots, a nonprofit organization with Caitlin Boyle 3 years ago, I guess. And so I'm the executive director of that. And then I spend a lot of time riding my bike and racing my bike and doing everything that goes along with trying to put in some big performances from a athletic standpoint. So yeah,
that was a pretty good elevator pitch. You wrapped that up pretty well.
And then I take a long sip of my cocktail to try to calm down a little bit.
Well played. Thank you. Well, I did want to touch on the geology just real quick. My wife is actually a geologist, and so I've been telling her about you for years. We would go on trips, and I would tell her about this professor that would take his students bikepacking and to do, it was geological field trips, wasn't it? Via bike. Do you want to talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, so that was a course. I remember years ago when I was interviewing at Prescott College, I was in the process of finishing up my PhD work at the University of Colorado, and this was a interesting little school that has a huge emphasis on experiential and field-based learning. And so I was trying to think of new and innovative and kind of sexy courses to pitch in my interview, and one of the ones that came to mind was a course called something like Geology through Bikepacking, and that was actually building off a course that the school already offered called I think Rock Climbing and Geology. And
cool.
That's one that's been around for a while. A friend of mine started that years ago, combining his climbing passions and his geology passions. And so that was something that I pitched in the interview, and it went over quite well. And when I got the job, they were really excited to support the development of that course. And so that was one that we put together the second year I was teaching there, I guess, getting my feet on the ground a little bit and just trying to figure out how to actually get a group of 10 students or so outfitted with all the bikepacking gear they needed to get out for a series of trips. And that was a course that was also co-developed with Caitlin Boyle, who was teaching adventure education at Prescott College at the time. And so we collaborated on getting that course going, and she kind of took the lead on the adventure ed component of the curriculum, and I took the lead on the geology side of the curriculum. And we put together a sequence of, depending on the year, but usually four 2 to 4 day trips in different areas of the Colorado Plateau.
Wow.
And
so
go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was just curious, was this required? I mean, this couldn't have been the only geology course that was offered, right?
No. So
so this is a different. You have your standard geology course, and then if you want to take the adventurous geology course, you go with Kurt and Caitlin. Is that kind of how it was set up? Okay.
Yeah, and that was it was kind of an introductory level geology curriculum, and there was definitely some field experience required for students taking that course, just so that they were competent in a number of ways besides just being competent on the bike. They didn't need to be or mountain bikers by any sense, and we had quite a few students that took it with minimal mountain bike experience and did just fine.
I got a taste of that with Jared Foster, I believe.
Yeah, you got out with his adventure media course.
Yeah. So I got a really good taste of kind of what it's like to be in your shoes. I mean, he took 16 students for 5 days, and
it's hard.
It's hard.
I think that was one of the most challenging courses that I've taught in quite a number of ways, and incredibly rewarding. But by the time it was wrapped up each year, it's like, oh, all right, we made it. Everyone's intact. And
yeah, we didn't kill any students. No one got lost.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. So that was really a pleasure to be able to teach and combine my geology passions with the cycling world and get more people into bikepacking, and there are a number of students that have gone on from that course to do some really cool things involved with the bike world, whether it's continuing bikepacking. One owns a bike shop in Durango now. One did a bit of bikepacking guiding in Teton area in Idaho and Wyoming, and forget what else. But yeah, quite a number that went on.
It's amazing.
Really cool things building on that course a bit.
Well, you and Jared really you don't that's not inspirational to me because I have no desire to be a professor, but I am very grateful that there are people like y'all that are kind of pushing the boundaries and finding new and creative ways to not only teach but really immerse the students in the environment, and help to give a better appreciation and understanding for what you're talking about. And you get that through living in it and experiencing it. I read a book called Last Child in the Woods that was actually recommended to me by Jared Foster. And it said that, nowadays kids are much more aware of environmental issues and just our world. I mean, they just have more information, but they're not as competent whenever it comes to actually going out of doors and being competent, and knowing what to do and stuff. So making that connection for me, and I it has to be for you, is vitally important.
Yeah, it completely is. And this is something that I didn't really see until I started taking students out into those sorts of environments on my own as a professor. But yeah, those are the times when you're combining someone's knowledge of something, like maybe just theoretical knowledge of just how a landscape evolved or certain environmental issues facing a particular area. And, you can read about it, but you don't actually connect with that in any sort of emotional way until you're actually out there and spending time in it and experiencing it, and out there for days and nights at a time. And one of the really amazing things with those sorts of experiences is that is then a really effective way of creating advocates for particular places or particular issues. Is when people are actually developing those emotional connections in response to an experience. So that's something that is so powerful.
Right on. Are you familiar with, or have you been to the Big Bend region in Texas?
I'm quite familiar with it. I haven't spent any time out there aside from a couple days in the national park right in there years ago.
It was really neat to be there with Jared's students and stand inside the Solitario, which is where North and South America collided, and to stand in the middle of that. And I shared that with the students, and they were like, "Holy shit!" I mean, it's you're just like, it clicks, man. You have to stand there and be like, this is where the world collided, or these two land masses collided. It's powerful, really powerful. All right, man. Well, I want to talk about some racing, dude. You are let's get this straight. So you won the Triple Crown of Bikepacking. So first of all, just for anyone who doesn't know, what is the Triple Crown and how do you win it?
Okay, well, the Triple Crown was an idea that was thought up probably 7 years ago or so. Kind of like the Triple Crown of hiking, which is the Pacific Crest Trail, the Appalachian Trail, and the Continental Divide Trail. And there are lots of hikers that strive to do each of those in their lifetime, or a few crazies try to do it all in a year, kind of bouncing from one to another based on season and what's passable and that sort of thing. But the Triple Crown of Bikepacking is the combination of Tour Divide, the Arizona Trail Race, and the Colorado Trail Race. And so that idea caught on a few years back, and quite a few riders have tried to race each of those in a single year. And so that's what the Arizona Trail up until next year, I guess, has been in April, and then Tour Divide in June, and then Colorado Trail Race in the end of July. So they're packed in pretty tightly there. And I had done all 3 of those, not in the same year, but in kind of over a 3 or 4 year period back 6, 7, 8 years ago. And then this last year I went back and did the Arizona Trail Race again, and managed to have a really good ride there and win that event. And then this year won the Colorado Trail Race for the first time. And then I'd won Tour Divide back in 2011, I guess. It's been a while now.
It's 20. And that, according to the internet, it's 2011.
Feels like ages ago. But yeah, apparently no one else had ever won each of those events. And so there isn't really a category for winning the Triple Crown, but it was a neat realization that actually one of the athletes I coach mentioned to me earlier in the spring. He's like, man, if you win CTR, you'll be the first person to have won the whole, each of the Triple Crown events. And I looked into it, and sure enough, it's that seems to have been the case. So
that's neat. So you weren't even going for the Triple Crown. You were just racing the events that you like to race, and just so happens that you won.
Yeah,
kinda.
Exactly. And yeah, I have so much admiration for the folks that do each of the Triple Crown races in one given year. Just
no
that
doubt.
It's so many really challenging miles, and you hit the Colorado Trail Race, which is, I think, arguably the most physically demanding of the 3 of those probably, and you're hitting that with such tired legs from just having finished Tour Divide. I mean, for a lot of people, a matter of weeks before, and then you're jumping into another 500 miles with 75,000 feet of climbing or something like that crammed in. So,
but next year, so we're going to go Tour Divide to Colorado Trail Race and then AZT.
Yeah,
right?
But I think that actually may be a little bit easier because there's more time in between the CTR and the AZT. There'll actually be, all of August, or almost all of August and September, and almost all of October for recovery. So
for people who aren't familiar, they're moving the AZT to October, right? Like late October.
Yeah, late October instead of mid-April. So that's a big.
That's a big change. So the Colorado Trail Race, that's one that I believe that you've it's been a tough race for you in the past.
It's challenged me more than any other ultra that I've done repeatedly. Like the Arizona Trail, for some reason, despite how hard it is, that one has usually come pretty smoothly for me. Even though every time it's dang hard. But the Colorado Trail Race, I lived in Boulder for 6 years while I was in grad school, and so the start of the Colorado Trail on the Denver end is just like a 40-minute drive away. So that was one that was sort of a backyard thing and seemed like I should just be able to get it done because it was in the state. And I tried twice, I guess, while I was living in Boulder to time trial it, just based on how it fit into my summer schedule, and neither time had anything remotely of a good ride. Like both times blowing up pretty early on, like morning 2 kind of thing. And then I moved to Arizona, time trialed it again, and came back. Flew back up here, and then managed to get halfway through on really fast pace. And then was like, I've never even seen almost all of the second half of this trail, the San Juan Mountains, and the racing mentality and drive just wasn't there. And so I backed way off and just rode fast all day and slept all night, and still finished in under 6 days. But really enjoyed the San Juan experience. But it really wasn't the race ride that I wanted.
Right.
And then I went back 2 other times, I guess, that it started in Durango. And one year my knee just acted up on basically the end of the first day. I have an old injury from a trip riding a bunch of the 14ers in Colorado, and had
I read about that on bikepacking.com, I believe.
Yeah, that was a exhausting endeavor. But yes, that knee thing acted up 2 years ago, I guess, on the first day, and I bailed 15 hours in or something like that. And 2 years before that, just all of the other things in life that take energy had just been a little bit too intense that summer. And I showed up really excited to race, but then on the second morning. I had no ambition. I didn't have the drive. I just felt exhausted all around, physically and mentally, and all sorts of little overuse things were acting up at the same time. And so that one I bailed the second morning. So yeah, definitely. Sorry. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm thinking as you're talking, and I kind of alluded to it at the beginning of the podcast, but I legitimately don't understand how you do it, like how you find the time to train, how you find the time to coach and profess and run Bikepacking Roots. And I mean, how is that? You can't, like, talking to you, you're like, I think that was this year, and I think I've done it 2 times. I mean, you've done so much stuff, you can't even remember everything you've done. Like,
it does run together in certain ways, more in the time aspect of like, well, I can remember the experience, but when did that?
Yeah, I hear you.
No, it's definitely been a really busy few years. I think being a grad student and racing really helped me learn how to almost compartmentalize things and just, devote certain amounts of time to this and that. And for the first 4 or 5 years I was in grad school, I was chasing the UCI points on the national cyclocross circuit. And so like the complete opposite end of the spectrum from ultra racing. And so I spent a ton of time flying all over the country and driving to these big races as a grad student. And cross was awesome because you could I was racing at a really high level, training like 12 hours a week, which was pretty good fit for being a grad student. And then I kind of got tired of literally racing in circles again and again and again. And the ultra, very, very young ultra scene captured my attention, which at that point was basically the Great Divide race, the predecessor to Tour Divide, and an event in Western Colorado called the Grand Loop. And those both caught my attention back in 2007, 2008.
How did that get on your radar at that time? Do you remember? Do you remember when you first learned about bikepacking?
I don't even know. I think I knew a couple riders in Boulder who had done the Kokopelli Trail Race, which was just a single day underground event on the Kokopelli Trail, which is like 140 miles or so. But the Grand Loop uses some of that same trail. And so somehow through that, I just caught wind of that event and looked into it and was like, whoa, this is wild. How do people do this?
You're like, I'm tired of doing cross, so I think I'll just do the complete opposite thing, and that'll be good.
And that's what happened. And so, yeah, that year I did the Grand Loop, swore I'd never do anything like that again because it was so hard. And then the next year did the Arizona Trail 300 and Tour Divide. And so then for a few years there, I was training just a completely pathetic way of let's just ride as many miles as possible, and that's got to be the way to get fast for ultras. And it kind of worked, but in the end, it just basically wore me out most of the time. And I never really felt good on the bike, and I never really felt good off the bike. And there were a couple of years there that I rode literally like over 1,000 hours, which was like an eighth of the year. You do the math for how much time. Yeah. And I have no clue how that was possible or how my body survived all that. And so that learning from that kind of led into doing a lot more research into the realm of just how people might go about training more effectively for ultras. And there's so little science that's been done on at least bike specific ultras. There's quite a bit that's been done in the running realm and in the realm of these crazy triathlons that are pretty popular in Europe, that are really easy to just like collect data from people, blood samples and urine samples and all that stuff during the event. But yeah, so I got more interested in that and really refined my training strategy a lot over the years. And so felt like the last 3 years as things have been really busy with different endeavors, I've been training fewer hours than ever before, probably, but been much more effective training, and my results have been way better. My body's been way happier. So it's both getting smarter and getting a lot more experience in
refining. Yeah, I'm sure it hasn't been a perfectly smooth process, but you've been at it for a long time, and through that, you're somehow at this level. And I want to get into the ultra coaching, because there's some really juicy stuff or some interesting things we can talk about there. But before we do, Can you walk us through your CTR this year? I mean, you're fresh off of it. I know that's kind of a big question, but I mean, what is it like to win a race like that, to go that hard, to not sleep on such a rugged trail? I mean, can you kind of just take us through your experience from this year's CTR?
Yeah. So going into it, I had a few goals that were really at the front of my mind. One was simply to have a smooth race ride and finish. So not even necessarily set records, win, anything like that. But after struggling on that route so many times, I wanted to make it through in race mode the whole time. And then beyond that, I did want to win. That's always a goal for me in these races. And this year there was a tremendous amount of snow still on the route in the weeks leading up to the race, and so we didn't even know. There was very little information from the higher elevations in the San Juans just about what to expect there for snow. And so it was looking like the chasing records was just not even going to be in the cards this time around because of all that snow and how much hiking there would be to get through it. So that was something that really from the outset wasn't a goal itself, to try to chase either Neil Belchenko's record on there or Jesse Jacobite, who has the record in the eastbound direction, which is what we were doing this year. So that was actually a little bit of a relief to just not be having to put so much focus on how fast you need to go to keep up with certain splits or to be ahead of certain splits. And then I also really just wanted to have fun out there. It's such an amazing trail, and I love the landscapes in Colorado so much, and the fact that you're basically riding from the edge of the Colorado Plateau to the edge of the Great Plains is pretty powerful. And so I wanted to be able to actually absorb that and enjoy it while I was out there. So,
Okay, yeah. Okay, that's nice to say, but how do you actually have fun when you're sleep deprived? And I mean, legitimately, like, I respect and I appreciate that you are having fun. I think that's important. But yeah, what does that look like to you? What is fun?
That's something that really, like, being able to achieve that has really developed for me in the last 3 years, I guess. That for me personally, I need to be riding very much within myself, within my abilities, within what my body can sustain. And so it's so easy in these races to go too hard on day one and to fall behind on self-care, on nutrition, on that sort of thing. And just by like the second day, feel like crap and you're already in a hole. And if you're in that place, it's going to be so hard to recover and get your mind back to being able to enjoy where you are versus just like surviving and continuing to move forward. And so being really cognizant of just like where too hard is, where that threshold is, has been something I've been really trying to carefully identify over the years. And that I've learned a lot from doing much shorter races and time trials where I do push limits in ways that maybe I wouldn't want to in a bigger event like this, just to find where those are so that I can actually make sure I don't get to that point when it really counts.
Yeah, that's interesting, and something I think about as well. I always, whenever I'm riding, I'm always trying to tell myself, give everything that you can, but not overextend yourself, like don't go too far, but that finding that point, where you can go as hard as you need to, but still, leave a little bit to where you don't bonk or you don't, blow something out or whatever. It's that's something I focus on too, and it's I'm guessing it's an ever evolving needle that you're chasing.
It totally is, yeah, and it depends on so many external things too, like what the weather's doing and what day you're on in one of these races. Like that threshold on day one is going to be really different from the threshold on day three, and like physiologically, it's even different things that are controlling that threshold as a race wears on. But so that's a big part of it for me. And so and what else? And I guess I was really excited going into this race. I had a brand new race bike setup this year, or just that I gotten maybe a month before the race. I hadn't even had it that long. It was the new Pivot Mach 4 SL. So it's a bike that was actually designed for World Cup cross country racing. A couple days after it was launched, my friend from who lives in Prescott, also Chloe Woodruff, who races the World Cup circuit, won World Cup short track on it. And so I had that same bike set up quite differently from hers, but with ultra racing in mind. And I had done the Cocopelli Trail on it a few weeks prior, or maybe a month prior, and was just blown away at how fast it was. And so I was really excited to race that bike as well. And so just having that eagerness for the tool that's going to help meet some goals was
right. Was just having that new bike stoke, seeing how it's going to perform, and you're out there riding, you're like, dude, this thing shreds,
Yeah. So then
that's cool that you still get that feeling. I'm glad to hear that.
I've been racing bikes since I was 8th grade, I guess, in one capacity or another. And that stoke never has faded with the awesome new bike.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, so the race started 4 a.m., I guess, kind of obscenely early. And we started in the Durango end this year at actually a former student's bike shop in Durango, Belarushian. And we launched from there, and pretty much immediately after getting to the trailhead, which is about a 30-minute pedal from the shop, you go up and climb for more or less 6,000 feet, I guess. There's a little 1,000-foot descent in the middle of that. But starts off incredibly challenging like that, and you get up to over 11,000 feet, I think, within a few hours. And so it's so easy to dig yourself into a hole just in those first few hours. And then the riding doesn't really get notably easier for the rest of that day, and you just get slightly more fatigued, and it's a really hard way to start a race. And so that whole day I was just trying to not dig too deep, and was kind of close with last year's winner, Time and Fish from New Mexico, for basically that whole climb. And then we ended up separated by just like 10 or 15 minutes most of the rest of that afternoon, until getting to Silverton, which is the first resupply point. And the second resupply point is like close to 2 days past that. And so you need to leave Silverton with, God, I think I had 14,000 calories that I was carrying, which is so much food to both find in a little store, like what sounds good, what's going to sound good, and how do you make that add up to 14,000 calories? And then where do you put it all on a bike? That's just a big volume.
7,000. So that was 7,000 calories per day, huh? Roughly.
I guess so. Yeah. I try to eat like 300 to 350 calories an hour is what I go off. So I got enough food for that. And I definitely didn't eat as much as I should have been, with just the effects of high altitude, especially.
Okay. It doesn't sound like it's enough food to really give your body everything it needs, but I guess space has got to be a limiting factor.
Well, it is, and I actually plan my volume of what I could carry based on that one resupply, to make sure that I did have space to carry as much as I needed. And in lots of other races I've done in the past, that basically the 350 calorie an hour mark is the maximum that my body is willing to take in and can process. Okay. And it's definitely not enough to like replenish all the calories you're burning. So you're gradually. But it's good
enough for like a short race. It'll sustain you to just get to the end, and then you can eat everything.
Definitely. Yeah. Yep.
Gotcha.
And there's quite a few riders that get through races like this taking in only like an average of probably 200 calories an hour. And I don't know how their bodies are able to do it, but from all the folks I've talked to, that really does seem surprisingly common. But yeah, so that first day, I got to Silverton, had a blast in that part of the San Juans, the first part of the San Juan Mountains, and got to Silverton and met kind of a smaller goal of getting there still feeling okay. And definitely didn't feel like, oh man, that was hard. And, 80 miles and I don't know how many, it's probably 12,000 feet, 14,000 feet of climbing in that first bit. And then from there, it's just this really gets into this gnarly remote stretch of the San Juans that had a lot of snow, just big piles every quarter mile, every half mile that you had to be off the bike and trudging through and sliding around in a bit. And you're up at 12 to 13,000 feet for a lot of it. So it's kind of obscenely high. And Timon and I ended up pushing through most of that together in the dark that first night. And then he continued on a little bit farther. I wanted to stop and sleep after it was like a 22-hour first push. So I slept for about an hour up at 12,500 feet on this nice little dry spot of tundra. and then continued on.
What does sleep look like for you? You know, I mean, I find that people that are very good at ultras are very good at time management. It has to be a top priority. So, you know, what was your sleep? I mean, you got to be efficient, get all your stuff out, sleep, and then get up and go again.
Yep, pretty much. Yeah, I had a pretty simple sleep setup, just a super thin foam pad. I brought just an emergency bivvy, one of those foil bivvies for this one because there was virtually no rain in the forecast, and then a lightweight down quilt. And so I don't even think I pulled the bivvy out that first night because there was no dew or anything up there. And yeah, I just pulled all that out, got in it, changed out of my shorts, and ate a giant burrito and a couple granola bars, and then fell asleep for an hour. And then as soon as my alarm went off, packed everything up in just a few minutes and put on an extra layer and started, well, at that point, just kind of walked away from there because at 12,500 feet, anything that goes up very steeply at all is just not worth trying to ride.
When your alarm goes off, what's going through your head? Are you like, are you fired up and ready to get going, or what?
It varies so widely in these events. Like, I think that time when my alarm went off, I woke up and was like, cool, I'm up here. And was just kind of excited to be where I was.
Nice.
And to traverse the next section, which is really, it's otherworldly at night, and there was no moon. So it was just a kind of eerie thing to be up on the Continental Divide at over 12,000 feet, getting up to 13,000. And, you know, just seeing little bits of light and just little snippets of landscape here and there. And you're kind of in your own fog almost. But yeah. So I was excited for that. Other times I've awakened in races like, oh God, I gotta do another day. And pretty quickly my mood turns around, but that 20, 30 minutes can be really challenging just because of how achy everything might be, or how your mouth just hurts from having been eating food continuously for days. That can, just these weird little things that make you uncomfortable.
Right. Yeah, interesting. So you are human. Good.
Oh, very much so. Yeah. So then that morning I felt actually pretty good for a few hours. And then by the time the sun came up, my body was like, okay, that was actually a lot of miles in elevation. And I hit a paved road and my body just kind of fell apart temporarily, and motivation disappeared, and felt like I had just done what I was trying to avoid doing, which was going way too hard for the first 30 hours or whatever. But at that point, you're basically done with the San Juans. You have a little bit of pavement, like 5 miles of pavement, and then probably 5 hours of dirt road that definitely has climbing on it, but it's smooth. You can kind of back off and relax a little bit on it. And so it took a little while to get my head into a mind space of just like, okay, use this as recovery, back off a bit. It's going to get harder again once you get back to trail. And I was struggling that I didn't have any motivation for riding dirt road apparently. And so I had to just get my head to focus on the fact that there was more trail coming and that it would be fun once I got there. So that was definitely the lowest point of the whole race, was that morning, like right around sunrise. And then
what do you do mentally whenever you get in funks like that? I mean, do you play games with your head? Do you sing? Some people do bike dances. I mean,
like, I put some music in and was listening to that. And
yeah, music's a good one.
Yeah, I pulled out my phone just to look and see. Timon was ahead of me at that point, so I pulled out my phone to see where he was, and I didn't have enough service to actually see the tracker, so I had no idea where anyone was. But I texted Caitlin, who's my best friend and is a very experienced ultra racer herself, and I've coached her for a while through some pretty hard times, and texted her as like, I just have no motivation for anything east of here. And she replied with just the same, amusingly the same advice and same mantras I've given her in the past. And I was like, okay, I should have remembered that. And pretty quickly, once I heard that, I was able to turn things around, or start turning things around.
Yeah.
And then unexpectedly, I saw Timon up ahead, and he was just sitting at the turn onto the dirt road, leaning on the like the winter closure gate. And I rolled up to him, and he was looking pretty forlorn, and apparently he had been having some strange heart or like chest pains that early that morning after he had continued on. And so he has a history of a heart valve issue apparently, and so he decided it wise to just call his race then and descend into Lake City, which was definitely, I mean, if you have something wrong with your heart or lungs or, that level, like, it's not worth pushing on, especially in that kind of
another day.
Yeah, exactly. So he wished me luck and congratulated me on riding really strongly, which was really nice to hear from him. And then I continued on, and then I was in a little bit of a funk, just like feeling really disappointed and sad for him, having been in his shoes and not in having like potential heart issues, but just being in that setting where your body is rebelling in one way or another, and just it's not right to go on in these races, and that's hard to work through sometimes. So rode for a few hours really reflecting on that, and it was coincidentally also where I had bailed out once a few years prior. So it was just having some
emotions.
Yep. And then early that afternoon I got back to single track, which was the beginning of the Sergeant's Mesa section of the route, which is kind of horrendously rocky and pretty rugged, and it really is like a lot of the stuff that I was training on in Arizona. And so I was actually really excited to get on that, even though it's 25 miles or 30 miles of really, really rocky riding. I was excited, and so I had a really good time that afternoon and that evening on that, and it was strangely busy up there also with through hikers. It was like the front of the pulse of hikers going in the Denver to Durango direction. So despite it being a really kind of remote area, not close to anything, it felt busy. And so that was just different.
Yeah.
And that night slept way up high, almost to the Monarch Crest Trail. So getting close to the end of where the trail is especially hard, and getting to where it's just less hard. The first half of the route in that direction is just pretty over the top challenging. But slept for I guess an hour and a half that night. Just found a little dry spot under a tree after a storm went through, and again ate a bunch of food, slept for a little bit, got up rolling pretty quickly again, and it still had like 3 hours until dawn or something like that, and got to ride the Monarch Crest section, which is definitely one of the more popular high elevation trails in the state. And so it's just interesting to be riding that at like 3 a.m. when it's completely deserted, and it's covered in bike tracks and moto tracks from all the use it sees, but no one else anywhere around. And then that day got past the halfway point. You get down into the Arkansas Valley through Buena Vista, and the trail gets so much more rideable, and I don't want to quite use the word mellow, but compared to everything else, it feels mellow.
Right.
And just that was a huge milestone, getting out of the San Juans, getting through the Swatch range, and then it actually starts to feel like you're fairly close to the Denver end of the trail. But that night things started to fall apart a little bit, and I couldn't stay awake on the bit of paved road, getting around the Leadville area, and ended up crashing there. Not literally crashing, but crashing on my sleeping pad. And
yeah. I always have to make that distinction. Did you physically crash, or did you what crash did we do today?
Yes.
What do you use? I mean, I know a lot of people use caffeine pills. I mean, do you use anything to help you stay awake, or do you just
Yeah, I do carry some caffeine pills, and I try to limit myself to no more than 2 in a day, basically, or 2 in a 24-hour period, which would be, I don't know what that ends up being, like 4 strong cups of coffee or something like that. So I try to not use too much of it. It can definitely be hard on your stomach if you use too much, and just you get all jittery and strung out if you do take too much, especially in a short amount of time. And from my Tour Divide days years ago, I had a rule for myself that if I took a caffeine pill and nothing happened, and I took another one and nothing happened, then I had to stop and sleep. Like that was just this personal rule that if I was that tired, it wasn't worth riding. Like it wasn't going to go well.
Yeah, you gotta know your limits and be comfortable, with those decisions. And it's good to know that stuff going into it, and not making those decisions like on day 4 or whatever. And you're like,
when your brain is so exhausted that you can't even necessarily trust the decision that it's making to be the bestest. So I slept for 2 hours. My lead at that point was up to like 7 hours over second place, and so I definitely backed off the pace that afternoon, and from
Where were
since I
you
wasn't.
with the record? Were you tracking the record as well, or were you just
Uh, I
mostly
think
focused on winning?
I think at that point I was probably 5 hours off record pace, maybe six. Because the San Juans definitely took about, I don't know, 3 to 4 hours longer than normal, I think, because of the
Okay.
snow that was in them. And then for a little while, I tracked my pace compared to Jesse's. And it was just at the point that, like, it would have taken all of my focus and um, basically speed to match his pace. And, like, that seemed challenging enough that second day. And if I was to actually try to claw time back on it, that would have, like, I know that would have just dug me into a hole, and I don't think I could have maintained the pace I would have needed to. I know I couldn't have to all the way to Denver. And so I made the decision, like, it's just, I love chasing records, and that wasn't the time to do that. Jesse's ride was just too dang fast to be able to pull time back on.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that wasn't in my mind anymore. And so at that point, it was just staying in the lead and having a 7-hour lead or whatever it was at that point. Felt really comfortable.
Yeah.
And so slept a tiny bit longer and just I wasn't moving quite as efficiently. Stopped to eat a little bit more regularly just to make sure that I didn't fall behind on calories, and that helps you stay a little happier and all that. So
yeah,
and
I mean, once you have a 7-hour lead, I've never had a 7-hour lead. I've never had a lead in anything, but I would think that if I was in that position, that now you just want to. I mean, you still want to win, but it's like, okay, well, I want to be a little more careful. I want to make sure I'm taking care of myself. I don't want something stupid or unfortunate to be the reason that I don't win. I mean, so
totally, and that also gave me the opportunity to stop focusing on being as efficient and fast as possible, and to just back off a little bit. And if you're not focused on pushing steadily the entire time, it's a little easier to just enjoy where you are and to look around.
It's not lazy. It's just to me, it's smart. It's intelligent racing. You're this shift focus. I worked my ass off to get here, and now I'm going to protect it by making good and smart decisions.
Yep, exactly. And it was also really cool to be able to stop and talk to other hikers and bike packers a little bit, and not feel like, oh, this is costing me time, but instead be like, oh, cool, it's actually really neat to hear, just even if it's only for a minute or two, hear a tiny bit of their story and how their experience out here has been so far.
Well, shit, man, you should have called me. I would have come up and interviewed you on day 4, and just on the trail there, we would have just had a nice little chat.
Could have been pretty fun.
I'm kidding.
But yeah, that third morning actually was really hard. Also, I was up in the Leadville area, a little north of Leadville, and it was like temperatures were down right around freezing, and all the bushes were wet, and so I was getting soaked from those and cold, and just couldn't get my body into a rhythm after I slept, and my butt hurt, and just all the little things kind of bothering me. And so it wasn't until a little bit after sunrise that when I was getting up to tree line again, that everything finally kind of clicked back together. It was like, okay, cool, body's ready to go again. And had super fun time up in that section of Alpine over Searle and Kokomo passes, where you're just, I don't know, maybe 5 miles up above tree line, and just stunning scenery. And then descended down to Copper, the ski area there, and ended up slicing a sidewall literally under the chairlift within sight of the base area. And I was just kind of out in the rubble on the service road as some hikers were coming up the road. So I moved over to let them by and hit something sharp. And so I'm like standing there looking at it next to my bike, like, oh, should I stop and stitch it up, put a tube in? It's kind of annoyed. And I turn around and look to my left and down, and there's literally a guy rolling rental bikes out of a shop at the start of the day. It was like 9 a.m. on the dot. And so I was like, there's a bike shop right there. Cool. And so I walked down to that, which took maybe 4 minutes, and went in, and they didn't have any 29er tires. And I was like, damn. And then the guy's like, well, you could go to the other shop. It's like, there's another shop here? And he just like ducks down and points out the window, and just across the little brick lined base area, there was another bike shop. And so I head out and start walking that. And then I hear a woman call out, hey, I know you. And it was Rose Grant, who is one of Pivot's pro riders. And she came over and was like, whoa, do you need a tire? I've got a whole bunch of tires in my car. And she's also sponsored by Maxxis and No Tubes. And so I'm like thinking like, I kind of know you, so I shouldn't actually take anything. And all she had also were Maxxis Aspens, which I've used in ultras before, and I don't think I'd want to use on the Colorado Trail because they're just such a lightweight tire. And so it's like, I'm going to go in the shop and just see if they can help. And she's like, okay, let me know if I can help. And so I went in the shop, and they had a 29er tire, and the guy there was able to get it swapped out pretty fast. And so, I mean, like within 25 minutes of slicing a sidewall, I had a new tire and it was rolling.
That's some sweet trail magic.
It was, yeah. I feel like I used up all my trail karma in that one experience.
Yeah, good.
But I'm not going to question it. So, yeah, got rolling again, climbed over the next couple mountain ranges, which are kind of the last challenging passes, and I felt great getting over those, and got into South Park that night and continued to feel pretty good. That having backed off a little bit helped just how my legs felt so much, and slept for a luxurious 2.5 hours that night, which I was starting to get just these little, not really hallucinations, but when your eyes first notice something and focus on it, what immediately would register in my brain wasn't actually what it was, like seeing a stump, but at first thinking it's like a hiker sitting down, or just little things like that, like misidentifying things initially. Yeah. And I know for me, that's a sign that if I have another night that's really, really low on sleep, then the next day things are going to be much worse from a kind of neurological perspective or from a cognitive perspective. And that's somewhere I did not want to go in this. There was no reason to. And it's like, I don't like to put my body through that. And so I slept a little bit longer that night, which I probably should have slept a little bit longer yet. But then the last day was much more mellow riding, some really beautiful dirt road sections to get around the last of the wilderness areas on the trail. And then really flowy single track most of the way back to Denver for another, I guess, the last 40 miles or so. And got into Denver in late afternoon, just as there were some storms building. And so I missed those and rolled into the trailhead where the CT finishes. And there were like a dozen people there waiting and cheering for me. And I didn't really know any of them except for one. And it was super cool to have that, because I've finished so many ultras to like an empty parking lot, except my car's there. Or like I finished the year I won Tour Divide, I got to the border at like 5 a.m. and there was nobody there. It was just completely deserted. And it was like a huge relief to be done and really anticlimactic. That like, okay, cool. I'm here. I won. I think I'm just going to lay down and go to sleep.
Yeah, I mean, what do you do? Throw a party for yourself?
Yeah. I mean, it is really odd to like put yourself through something so hard and know that there's a lot of people out there watching and cheering you on and supporting you kind of remotely because of the tracking in these races. But then to get to the actual end and it just, that's it. There's no one there, nothing at all. But yeah, at the end of the CT, to have all those people there, and there's one young boy who had a plate with a few like peach cobbler muffins that his mom had made that he came up and sheepishly gave to me, and they were amazing. And so it was just really cool to be able to just stand around and hang out with those people. And
do you think that speaks? Do you think that speaks to like the growing popularity? I mean, you've been in it a long time, so I'm kind of curious actually to get your perspective between where bikepacking is and its, quote unquote popularity. But, while you're talking about finishing and no one's there, like bikepacking has got to be one of the most, if not the most physically challenging things you can do. I mean, maybe ultra running is right there, but I mean, you're talking about amazing human feats, and to get done and there be no one there. I mean, most people like in everyday life have no clue that people are doing what you're doing. It's crazy. So, where do you think we're at with bikepacking as it relates to popularity?
Yeah, I mean, the awareness of bikepacking in general, not necessarily the racing side of it, but just as a recreational pursuit, is obviously bigger than ever. But there still are so many people, and like it's kind of shocking when I'm talking to like National Forest Service like supervisors or people at a pretty high level in a particular forest, and they've never heard of bikepacking. It's like, there are actually quite a few people, like it's a new user group in your land, but you're not aware of it. In the
Yeah.
cycling world, it's a different story. That Salsa was really the first bigger company to do a lot to support and to build the bikepacking community.
Yeah.
And within a few years of them becoming really successful at that, so many other companies were like, "Oh, cool, adventure. That's actually a really neat realm in the bikepack or in the cycling world that seems to be growing. Maybe we can do something with that." And so pretty quickly there were a tremendous number of big companies supporting that and giving it so much more visibility. And I remember years ago when there's one article about bikepacking in one of the magazines, I think it was Mountain Flyer, and then Bike had something. And then pretty quickly it was, each issue of most bigger bike magazines or mountain bike magazines had something about bikepacking. So the visibility has just grown tremendously within the cycling world, and definitely is, but not necessarily at the same rate outside of that community. And then the racing side of things definitely is still growing in popularity, but like Tour Divide participation really has leveled off. And even races like the CTR, like just in the last few years, they've basically reached their limit of 74 participants. And Arizona Trail Race, kind of same thing, approached its limit, but not really overflowing. So
that's only one aspect, right?
Yeah, but there also are a lot of newer races that are probably never going to be as popular as those, but showing up in different regions of the country that haven't had as many races in the past. And I think what we're seeing is many more races internationally appearing as
right. So it's kind of diluting, and there's more people just spread out,
Yeah, diluting, but not like absolutely no negative connotation with that.
Correct.
There's more opportunity for people that do want to race.
That's a better way to say it.
To participate in different styles of races. There's in Australia, or I guess New Zealand mainly, the style that you race all day and then you have to stop and sleep for a while at night. And other races like the Silk Mountain road race that just happened, that there's actually a promoter and doing a fair bit to organize the race and have support, and there's an entry fee and all of that. So there's definitely some commercialization going on with that style of racing.
Yeah, well, listen, man, seriously, congratulations on the Colorado Trail and the Triple Crown. You're kind of a badass.
Yeah, it felt so rewarding to finally have a smooth ride on this CT and to actually have been able to enjoy so much of it. And then that was, I think, there have been a few different routes that have challenged me a little bit more. Like that Kokopelli Trail was another one. And this year I got those two, had really nice rides on both of those. And so that kind of, those were the big things left on my long-term kind of racing to-do list for ones that hadn't gone the way I wanted in the past. So now it's getting creative and thinking about some others that challenge me in other ways. And so
how about the Wild West route, or the Wild West, the Wild West route? I just did a Will Smith in there.
That's one. Oh man, I have no desire at this point to do races that are weeks, to do any kind of effort that's weeks long at that level, because it's just so demanding on the body, and I don't want to put my body through that at this point. So I'm really enjoying the shorter, like 2 to 5 day range, something like that, right, that don't take so long to recover from and don't dig you into as deep of a hole.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you're going to leave the Wild West for somebody else.
Well, yeah. And the other complication is that's one that we're actually actively discouraging people from racing.
Oh,
at least.
Good. Okay. Well, let's talk about that then.
Yeah. So that Wild West route was a project of Bikepacking Roots that we've been working on for, well, actually since before the organization launched formally. And it was very much inspired by the success and popularity of adventure cycling's Great Divide mountain bike route, which is 20 years old now. It's inspired so many people. It's far and away the most well-known and ridden bikepacking route in the world. And there's been so much demand for another route like that there's a lot of people that have ridden that route once or twice or 3 times and want something else of similar style, similar scale. And so we set out to create another route like that to the west of the Great Divide route, which is through Arizona, Utah, Idaho, and a corner of Montana. And it's kind of similar riding style, but we really wanted to use it as a means of showcasing the vast swaths of public lands in the West and how wild some of those still are. And so that dictated a lot of just where we put the route exactly on the ground. And so I think it's right around 2,700 miles in length. It's about 70% on public lands, mostly BLM and Forest Service lands. And I think, if I remember right, it goes through 18 different national forests and about five different national monuments or parks, a handful of BLM national conservation areas. So it's a really cool route in that respect. It's so much of it's public land. I think 80% of it almost is dirt, but mostly dirt road and Jeep road, 4x4.
That sounds awesome.
That kind of thing. It's definitely more rugged than the Great Divide route, definitely more remote than the Divide route, but still designed for people that aren't looking for a particularly technical riding experience out there. And there's a few sections that go across private property that we've worked with landowners to get approval for. And there's about 120 miles or so in northern Arizona that crosses Navajo Nation. And that was the first basically formally approved long distance recreation route on their reservation. And that one is a bit sensitive in that it's, if there are any complaints whatsoever about bikepackers being out there, not following regulations, not having the permit they need, camping in areas that they're not supposed to, that'll definitely jeopardize the access that we've been granted on their land. And so that's one that those private lands and the Navajo Nation, which technically is private also, those are areas that if racers are going through there and focus more on time than on making sure that they're incredibly respectful of the land and the people, that could really have some serious repercussions for the route as a whole. So we're discouraging people from doing any racing. We've had quite a few people, even in like the week after we launched the route, I had people from other countries emailing me and saying, hey, we'd like to host a race on your route. And so far, everyone's been really respectful of our request that they don't do that. And we had a few people that wanted time trial this summer, and they also were very respectful of that. So I'm personally really appreciative of that, just given the 3 years of effort it took to develop that route.
How does that work? I mean, you publish a route, the information is out there.
And
so how can you keep someone from holding a race there, or
no? We
are you just asking people to respect it? Just
that's all that we can do, and it's Tour Divide is run on ACA's Great Divide route, and ACA has no involvement in that. Same thing with Colorado Trail Race and the Colorado Trail Foundation being completely uninvolved in that event. Generally, those organizations are fine or even supportive of those events happening, but they have no involvement whatsoever. And so we have no control over.
The only way I thought you might have some control is just through those permits that you have with the private land, or the agreements that you have with private landowners and the Navajo.
Yeah, and they're like, one of the landowners did ask if we promote racing, and they were happy to hear that we didn't. And Navajo Nation, technically you need special permits to have any kind of competitive event or organized event on their land. And they don't have rules like no more than 74 people like the Forest Service and BLM do, or anything like that, that create some gray area. There's no gray area down there. And so, we don't want to do anything to violate any of their regulations. And they're even in a big swath of the area where the Wild West route does cross Navajo Nation, they just closed a bunch of the backcountry areas where canyoneering has been quite popular because of trash issues and people having campfires out there, which you're not allowed to have campfires anywhere on Navajo Nation. And so those areas, because of people not following regulations, are now closed to public access, even with the backcountry permit. So it's definitely a legitimate issue. And there's the Baja Divide route that Nicholas Carman and Lael Wilcox created a few years back. Nicholas was really adamant about not wanting people to race that for a variety of reasons. And people have really respected that in general. There have been a few people that have time trialed it on their own, which is, the least impact that somebody racing could. But no one has endeavored to create an organized event on that one either.
Yeah.
So I think
I think that's cool. I mean, there's lots of bikepacking races, and we were just talking about they're popping up everywhere, and routes, and I mean, we live in a great time right now with so many route options. On a personal level, I'm more of a bikepacking tour. I don't know. I don't do much of the racing, but I'm much more motivated by getting into public lands and wild places and connecting with nature and, just getting out and enjoying it. And so the Wild Wild West, I keep saying that. Oh man, can we rename it, please? The Wild West route, really, I mean, even before talking to you, but now knowing that, it kind of piques my curiosity even a little bit more for those reasons,
It's really an amazing route. I'm biased, obviously with that, but it was one that we really worked hard to develop the most enjoyable riding experience out there. Like so many, I don't know, just because you draw a line on a map and go out and ride something and it works out pretty well, doesn't mean that it's a great route. And there are so many ways that usually it could be improved. And so with our route development approach at Bikepacking Roots is really to go out and, figure out the area we want it to go through and find the best way, not just a way to connect through. And so a lot of the scouting for that was checking out 2 or 3 parallel options for the route and then seeing which ones worked and then how they all fit together in sequence the best. And so there are some areas that there's definitely a more scenic way to go to the west or to the east of the main route, but it's so rugged, and following up on the next section, which is also really rugged, it would just be a little over the top. So really trying to balance all the different aspects we were going through in terms of a riding experience to stitch everything together in the best way we could do. And so far the feedback on that route has been really, really positive. We had about 50 people riding sections of it as trial run last summer to give us feedback and reach out to people in communities along the way and that sort of thing. And then we refined the route a bit. And this summer, there's a few dozen people out there right now. And the guides that we have for it have been going so quickly. I'm kind of shocked at how quickly all of those have been disappearing from our inventory. So I think that says a lot about the time being right for another big route like that. So I'm really excited to see a lot more folks out on that in the next few years. And at some point, hopefully I can ride it, but we'll see.
Hopefully I'd be able to ride it as well. Well, that's a great segue into Bikepacking Roots. I think most people probably in bikepacking are familiar with it, but why don't you tell us what Bikepacking Roots is and maybe even more importantly, where is it? Why? There's a lot of there's other organizations, so obviously you're filling a niche. What is Bikepacking Roots really trying to do?
Yeah, so the idea came up probably 3 or 4 years ago for an organization or a branch of an existing organization that really was focused on the off-road touring world or the bikepacking world. Both through developing really, really high quality routes and through advocating for that community. As it grows, there's more and more need as access issues arise to make sure that there's someone speaking for that community and someone or an organization working to make sure that landowners see this as a legitimate new user group that is growing quite quickly. So that was a really big priority. And supporting the growing community in other ways, basically, however may be possible. Adventure cycling has done huge things for especially the road touring world for 50 years now. I think they've been around, and they've been so successful with a lot of their advocacy in things like improving safety on routes that go through cities, or they did a really amazing job with advocating for with Amtrak to improve bike access and bike transport on trains US. So they've done some really, really good things on the advocacy side for the road touring world, working with state parks in certain areas to develop biker hiker campsites along some of their popular routes. But there isn't anyone doing that sort of thing for the bikepacking community as we grow dramatically.
Yeah.
And there really, from what we were hearing from folks, was desire for more high quality routes that are on the level of quality of and with the resources like what ACA's Great Divide Mountain Bike Route has, or Arizona Trail, or things like that, both in the single track oriented and in the more dirt road side of things. And there are plenty of people developing routes on their own and submitting them to different websites. That some of those are absolutely stellar, and it's really easy for individuals to go out and create a 2 or 3 or 4 day route. Doesn't take a ton of scouting, and that's something that is really, really possible to do and to do well. One of the bigger challenges oftentimes is the longevity of those, and making sure that someone is paying attention to how things on the ground might change and need to be adjusted as trails get abandoned or unmaintained or closed, that sort of thing. So routes that have an organization behind them and eyes on the ground and are continually refining routes are just going to lead to more positive experiences for riders.
Yeah. Okay. I like that.
Sure. So yeah, that was a big goal. And then also trying to work to build the bikepacking community's voice in conservation issues and helping protect and conserve the places through which we ride. Because so many of us, and the surveying that we've done in the bikepacking community survey last year, really highlighted that the desires of bikepackers and the reasons that so many of us are out there are definitely different from stereotypical mountain bikers. We have much more interest in being in wild places, in the experience that provides. There's much less emphasis on, kind of the endorphin or adrenaline driven side of things.
Yeah.
And our interests as a community as a whole, and this is based on the surveying, so this definitely doesn't apply to everybody, but as a whole, are much, much more aligned with that of the average backpacker than bike.
It's camping with your bike.
Yeah, and it was really cool at I guess it was just last year, we were invited to speak at the National Equestrian Conference, which was super cool to have that opportunity as a very different user group. And
did they reach out to you?
Yeah, yep, they did. They were trying to get different user groups to be part of their conference that year.
That's good to hear.
And have it a pretty collaborative experience of just getting to know one another and why we were all out there.
Yeah,
and
good.
How we could be together in different issues.
Well, that's a perfect. That is why we need Bikepacking Roots.
Yeah, exactly. No one else is doing that sort of thing.
There's we need somebody that someone can call and say, okay, what are you guys doing out there? I mean, what is this? We need that. So yeah, that's important.
Yeah, and what was super cool from that experience was we shared some of the results of that surveying, but we did it in a very experiential way with trying to first ask the audience, which was almost entirely equestrians, what it is that gets them out on the trail and the experience they're looking for. And we offered the same kind of criteria, same options as we did in the surveying to bikepackers.
Okay.
And we heard what they said and then showed what bikepackers responded, and it was almost entirely identical.
Yeah,
so
I'm not surprised by that.
That was really eye-opening for the audience, that the reasons that bikepackers are out there are exactly the same reasons in general.
That is something I preach, is we're all doing the same thing. It's just a different method of getting there, right? You can walk, you can hike, you can ride your bike, you can run, you can get on a horse. I mean, the reasons we're doing it are all the same. It's just the vehicle, or, for lack of a better word, the method of transportation is the thing that is different, but we're all, I'm just really excited about this because I am passionate about public lands and advocating for them and making sure that bikepacking has a place, and to have an organization that has a seat at the table, that is representing me and other people and having those good collaborative experiences and just kind of all working together, man. We're all on the same team.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really a big goal for us. And in the advocacy side, like we're obviously a young organization and still working on building that out. But we've got a whole suite of regional advisors across the country that help. One of the things that we hope that they can do is be ears in the ground for access issues and public lands issues in their particular region and feed that to us, so that we can evaluate whether that's something that we want to get involved with. And so we've been able to lend support or be a voice for bikepackers in most regions of the country so far, in a variety of different issues in the past couple years, from national monument issues in the Utah area with Bears Ears and Grand Staircase, Escalante, to some more national forest specific stuff in Texas in one area, and in Montana with some of the what is it up there? It's wilderness study area access issues for bikes. And so we've been really working to also grow our membership. We've got a little over 4,000 members at this point, and it's one of those areas that the larger the membership, the stronger your voice is, and the more influential it can be in those sorts of conversations, whether it's working with public lands managers or reaching out to communities and that might be along popular bikepacking routes, and trying to work with them to develop better services for bikepackers or things like that along the way.
Yeah.
So it really is one of those things that the more folks we have involved and behind us, the more effective we can be at trying to advocate for the community. So that's been a really probably the most rewarding part of this so far, and it's also the most challenging part and the most thankless part, that people like advocacy just doesn't make people excited in most cases.
I'm excited.
And well, you're probably one of the exceptions to that general rule. But yeah,
it probably needs to be information. I think stuff like this is good. Having this type of conversation, letting people know what you're really doing, like how it's really going to impact them. I think once people understand how those things tie together in this land, I mean, we were fortunate that we grew up in America, and that we had Roosevelt that set aside these lands, and we need to continue to protect them. They're not. Yeah. We're so fortunate that we have this public land, but if we don't actively fight for it and protect it and even use it in a responsible way, I'm scared that it'll be taken away. I mean, I think we've seen that happen. So we need to be aware of this, and we need to be fighting for it.
Yeah. And what we have here in the US, and to a slightly lesser extent Canada, is unparalleled anywhere else in the world in terms of the expanses of public lands, the access to those lands, and the protections that a lot of those have, various levels of protection from the government, or in theoretical guarantees that they'll stay within the public domain. But yeah, I mean, you look now at the new BLM director we have, interim, hopefully, in theory, but Bureau of Land Management manages the more land in the West than any other agency, than the Forest Service does. And those lands are basically the leftovers of everything that wasn't claimed by settlers, or wasn't given away to railway companies or to states or anything like that, as the U.S. expanded west and pushed the Native Americans aside or killed them off, unfortunately. Yeah. And so those lands that were left over, that were never actually claimed and weren't set aside as forest reserves or national forests, ultimately became managed by the newly formed BLM, in the 1960s, I guess, instead of those being held by the General Land Office, basically for sale. And it wasn't until the 1970s, the late 1970s actually, that the federal government officially announced or decided that BLM lands would continue to be federal and no longer were set aside for disposal to whoever wanted them. So we got really lucky in that sense, that all those lands were preserved in that sense. But now we have a director of the BLM who says that, and has argued in articles in publications in the last few years, that the federal government can't legally actually own land unless it's for like hospitals or military installations or things like that. And so it's actually illegal for the government onto BLM lands and Forest Service lands So yeah, he's now in charge of the BLM and believes that states should be the ones that should be managing all of these lands, and states simply don't have the resources. The lands that most states have were given to the states, or I should say Western states. It's a little bit of a different story in the Midwest and South and the East, but those lands were given to the states by the federal government as ways to generate revenue for the states, for schools, for hospitals, for things like that.
Right.
And so the management of state lands is for profit in a lot of states.
Yeah.
For the greater, as Gifford Pinchot said, for the greatest good of the greatest number of people, which was the Forest Service.
Excellent quote. Excellent quote, sir. Quote game is strong.
Yeah. So, there are issues that we're facing with public lands that are so much bigger than any individual user group or organization can tackle. And so it's to be part of a much bigger voice and to be able to engage more people, like even if it's, if we can get 100 more comments on a particular issue from the bikepacking community that wouldn't have been there otherwise, that's a step in the right direction. And if we can keep continuing to grow that side of things and generate more influence, that's only going to have a positive impact. And, IMBAs definitely do really positive things in that realm. They're not as focused on backcountry access as I would like them to be, but in reality, that's their membership are mostly front country mountain bikers. So it makes sense that they can have the biggest impact and affect positively the most number of people by focusing their energy on that. So fortunately, they are involved in a number of wilderness and wilderness study area issues, and with the recent commenting on the changes to NEPA, the National Environmental Protection Act, or not changes, but procedural evolutions, I guess, that the Forest Service is proposing. IMBO is also really good about promoting that and trying to get folks to comment on that, since that does affect all public land users potentially. So
the truth is like I'm out of my. I'm very grateful that there's a person or an organization, there's a person like you leading an organization like Bikepacking Roots that is keeping abreast of all this stuff, because truthfully, we're just, people are busy and there's a lot of things vying for our attention. And I'm passionate and I care about the outdoors, but I'm also not writing my congressman. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it's so hard to stay on top of so much of that. Right.
And so one of the things that we've been trying to do is bring the key issues that we want people to be engaged in to our membership's attention, to the community's attention, and give folks some, basic bullet point talking points that they can paraphrase and put in their own unique words. But like, here's what you can say that will be helpful, hopefully.
Right. Yeah. No, those are helpful. That's what I'm saying. It's like you're kind of doing all the hard work and then putting it down in a digestible format and sending it out in a newsletter and saying, okay, this is what we're facing and why, and here's what you can do.
Yep, that's our goal. And then we also on our website, on the advocacy section, we've got a form that folks can fill out if you know of any particular issue in your region or a place you've been riding that affects the bikepacking community in some way. Let us know, and we can look into that.
That was one of my questions. Yeah,
but so we've got a part of our. We've got a committee that basically looks at each of those submissions or advocacy areas and decides if that's something that we want to engage in, if it's kind of within our ability, and if we're going to have a positive impact on that, and if our voice will make a difference, then we'll engage.
Cool. Well, how has the response been? You said you have about 4,000 members. I don't know how. Are y'all pretty happy with that response?
Yeah,
I know you just had a membership drive too, so maybe that was pretty successful. I mean, maybe we could talk about what that looks like.
Yeah, that was really successful. Like, that was basically, we weren't trying to raise funds. We are a nonprofit, so support from our members definitely is crucial for our operating budget, which we're also mostly volunteer based. I'm the only one that gets any salary, and it's a pittance at this point. And so it's mostly passion from, I don't know how many we've got, probably 15 people regularly or like engaged in what we're doing and supporting us, and then a bunch more volunteers that are much more just like a little bit here and there. Yeah, so we've been shocked at how quickly things have grown, and
Good.
how, like I mentioned with the Wild West route reception, it's been absolutely massive. The press coverage from that, like REI was interested in covering it, and some pretty notable publications wanted to learn more about it and share. So it's what we're doing is definitely having an impact, and it's absolutely amazing when I can walk in somewhere in some town I've never been in, have a Bikepacking Roots hat on, and someone comes up and like, hey, where'd you get that hat? And knows all about it. That means that we're at least doing some things right.
Yeah.
And I think if we're able to continue on this trajectory within another couple years, our membership will be pretty dang substantial, and hopefully our impact is just going to continue to grow. We've got a budget to hire a few contract type positions later this year, early next year, to help out in the advocacy realm and in a couple other areas. And so that's, being able to actually bring people on board and pay them something is another big step forward.
Yeah.
So I'm thrilled at how things have been going so far.
Yeah, from an outsider's perspective, I've been impressed. I mean, it seems, it's just a really well-run organization doing good things. Give my listeners a directive. Like, what can we do? I mean, you have a great organization and you're trying to get us all together. So what is the main thing that we as, advocates in our own way and bike, cyclists and adventurers, like what can we do to maybe help y'all and support y'all and ultimately support, bikepacking?
Yeah. So let me just start with the last part of that. What can everyone do to support bikepacking itself and the bikepacking community in their own way? I think there's a few key things that folks can do. That one is just simply be engaged in conversations that affect the bikepacking community in terms of access and public lands. And that can look like submitting comments. And, these comments usually take 5 or 10 minutes to submit when there's something notable that we bring to the community's attention, or that IMBA does, or, some other organization. And so be engaged in that. Your voice actually does matter to some extent in that. Depends on what the issue is and whether it's coming from like presidential proclamation or something much lower. But yeah, be engaged in that. Make sure you vote in elections. A lot of these issues that we're dealing with operate on both short time scales in terms of like decisions within a particular forest, and longer time scales with, who's in Congress and the Senate and what are their opinions on public lands and the role that those play in the economics of the West, in recreation, in conservation, and all that. So be engaged, make your voice heard, contribute a little bit of time to that, and make sure you vote. And then on a more day-to-day scale, if you're out bikepacking or you're out riding on a trail, be the most respectful you can be to all the other trail users, and, leave them with a really positive impression of the person they just saw on a bike that's loaded down with all sorts of stuff. They might not know much about bikepacking, but if you are a really friendly person that interacts really respectfully and is legitimately curious about what they're doing and share a little bit about what you're doing, that's going to leave a positive impact.
Yeah.
Negative impressions last so much longer. And so, if you tearing down a trail and just about hit somebody because you're going so fast and, say sorry and continue on, like that's going to leave a much longer lasting impression, unfortunately, than a much longer, more positive interaction might be. So do what you can. In
I think
those
as a
settings,
whole, in my experience, and I'm sure yours, like it's, doing the podcast has really been eye-opening because I'm talking to people I've never met before, usually. But there's no shortage of really quality human beings that are living in intentional lives that, are just good people, So hopefully that comes naturally. But I think it's worth noting that, individually we are representing a larger community, and one that I think is still in its infancy to some extent. Like, you are really helping to formalize. You have bikepacking.com and some other stuff that are great resources that really bring and help to build a community, which is important. But, you have Bikepacking Roots that is protecting the community and advocating for the community. And I forgot exactly what I was going to say, but it's good.
Yeah, and that's something that we don't need to be the only ones doing that. That individuals can do that in their own ways and be even more influential in the day-to-day sense, actually out on the ground.
Yeah, you can champion the cause. I mean, you can be the leader, you can be the champion, you can be showing people how to do it, but without the community supporting y'all, without them doing your questionnaires or, you know, signing a petition or whatever you're going to ask us to do, you're really not in a great position. You need everyone to be a part of it, you know, so you can't just sit back and let Kurt do the whole thing. Well, Kurt and your team, I know there's a large team behind you.
Yeah, we got a bunch of folks. We got an amazing board of directors out there, all over the country that have contributed so much so far. So it's way more than just me.
Well, listen, man. Sorry.
Two other things that people can do. One, that can also be really positive is just if you're out riding on public lands and happen to run into a Forest Service or BLM or state park employee, stop and talk to them. Tell them what you're doing. Tell them where you're going. The more visibility that we as a community have with land managers, the better. The more they know we're out here and where we're going and where we're riding, the better. So that's something else that can be helpful in a small way. And then finally, from supporting Bikepacking Roots, become a member if you're not already. It's free. And your voice does help our organization, and we want to help you. If you can donate to support what we're doing, that's also fantastic. That helps further our mission, helps with our just behind the scenes operating costs and engaging in different things. Yeah. And what else? There's one. On our website right now, we're doing a survey on, it's kind of like a partial economic impact study on what spending habits of bikepackers are when you're out on trips. Yeah, survey will take maybe 5 to 10 minutes. There's virtually no data out there for bikepackers and what kind of economic impact we can have on communities. Yeah. And so that's something that we're trying to generate at this point. And this is the first part of a much bigger investigation on that. So if you can take 5 or 10 minutes and share a bit about how you spend money on these trips, that would be absolutely fantastic. We'd really appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, I'll echo that. Please do all those things. And one thing that, I'll let you speak to this, but for me, I have people that contribute to the show. I don't have any, sponsors or advertising or anything like that. It's all listener supported. And I tell people, I'm like, I don't care if all you can give is $1 a month, I mean, just, I don't know. It's like your vote. I always think it's like you're voting with your dollars, it's like, okay, this is something I believe in. I'm going to give you $1 a month. I mean,
yeah, every little bit does matter. Take Bernie Sanders' approach that, 30,000 small donations adds up to a lot of money. Yeah. And
I would be a fairly. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Well, yeah. I mean, if you have 4,000 members and each one give $1 a month, I mean that's 4,000 a month. You're at 4,800 a year. I mean, it's it's a start.
No, 48,000 a year.
Oh, that's what I meant. 40. Yeah, sorry, did I say 100?
Yeah.
Yeah, 48,000 a year.
Yeah. No, so that's that's the kind of generosity that can make a big difference, even if it's only $1 a month. Yeah. So yeah, thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is I don't want to make this to be a grandiose and outer reach type thing. I mean, we're talking about some big ideas and some really important things, but what you're asking from members of the community is not great. I mean, you are carrying the lion's share. And you just need us to kind of follow what you're doing, keep up with it, fill out some surveys, and donate, join Bikepacking Roots, be a member, support it. I mean, you guys are supporting us. You're fighting and advocating for us, and you're doing it based on. It's not like you're doing it in an echo chamber. I mean, you did a massive questionnaire. That was really detailed, and then you take that information and you apply it. You say, okay, well, these are the things that the community believes in. It's what's important to them, and so that's going to be the foundation for how you approach situations.
Completely. Yeah, the survey you're talking about, the bikepacking community survey we did last year, I guess, and we actually had one a few years before that, before we actually formally launched as an organization. There were a lot of questions about the experience that folks that you all as bikepackers want out there, and that you're seeking, and questions about attitudes toward public land, toward wilderness, things like that. And the responses of they go directly into our advocacy conversations and helping to characterize just who bikepackers are and the experience that you're looking for. And when we're talking to land managers or trail organizations or communities, like that's powerful stuff. And that's stuff that we need to have to be able to accurately demonstrate who we as a community are. So yeah, anytime that we have some kind of a survey like that, it's not like we're trying to learn more about you so we can better ask how to get donations from you or something like that. That is something that we want to be able to know, but it's, the main emphasis is on being able to better advocate for you all as a user group.
Yeah. Well, man, that's awesome. I'm a big fan of Bikepacking Roots, and dude, the truth is, like, I've got a long list of questions and we are short on time, but you are not the kind of person that you can like talk to in an hour and a half for a couple hours and get everything. I mean, it's just impossible. So I'm going to apologize right now for all the things we didn't talk about, and we'll just have to do another one day. So no problem, right?
I'd be happy to at some point down the line. Yeah.
Well, before you go, I want to just ask you a fun question. All
right.
In 2012, Reveal the Path came out, which is a video that I watched quite a few times, and I still have it on my Amazon. And so I actually rewatched it yesterday just for fun. And the one scene in that really like stood out was when you dislocated your finger.
Yeah.
And dude, I mean, you were so calm and like dismissive. So the question is, how much of that was for the camera, and how much of that is you're just a badass tough guy?
I think the latter. I mean, I definitely wasn't at all focused on the camera at that point. Yeah, it was more like, damn, did I actually break my wrist? Because with the finger being dislocated, I had pulled the tendon or ligaments so tight that my wrist was bent at like 90 degrees and I couldn't straighten it. It really hurt. And so like, damn, is this actually like broken wrist or what's going on here? And so, yeah, it was one of those, you're in a foreign country and we're in Scotland. So it's, not that different in a lot of ways from the US and just getting medical care and that sort of thing. But yeah, I think, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things how upset you get with something like that. It's not going to change anything. Mm-hmm. And so that sort of attitude has really been refined through my racing and emphasized through my racing for years now, but it carries over into daily life that, well, yeah, we got to deal with it. So let's just figure out what to do moving forward and go that route. And
so it's another thing. It's like a slice in your tire. It's you're going to get hurt every once in a while. You just, okay, this is what I got to deal with. Yep. Let's do that.
Yep. So I don't think it makes me a badass in any way.
Well, to continue that story, you continued on the trip. Matthew Lee was like, well, you're not riding anymore. And you're like, no, the doctor said I can go. So I'm good.
Yeah, I did. I don't think I rode anymore on that trip in Scotland. But yeah, once we got, I actually had a couple more days to recover because I had a geology conference to go to in Switzerland. And so they went and did a little bit of riding, and I spent a few days at a conference and gave a couple talks, and then met back up with them to continue pedaling in Morocco, I guess. It was after that. So yeah, it was great.
You got to rest a little bit.
Yep, and I did have the official okay from the doctor that as long as the pain wasn't too concerning, that it was okay to keep pedaling. So,
yeah, well, I remember watching it. Every time I see that scene, I'm like, I mean, it just looks painful, and every time the look on your face, your mannerisms, your body language, I mean, just very, very calm, like not really bothered by the situation much. Just you were like looking at it and analyzing it. I'm sure that, there's a lot that was going on that didn't make the camera. So maybe you were crying at one point, but at least they made you look really good.
Well, good to hear.
No. All right, man. Well, truly, thank you for taking the time and being an inspiration. I mean, what you're doing in like your race career is extremely inspirational to watch, and it's fun and it's entertaining, and it's mesmerizing. Like how, you know, and then, you know, for creating Bikepacking Roots, to advocate and to formalize, you know, what bikepacking is and help educate, public land managers and, you know, all those people that we talked about. I mean, that cannot be understated. So, yeah, thank you for all your contributions to the community. It does not go unnoticed.
Oh, well, thank you for those kind words. Yeah, it always means a lot to hear that. And thanks for the opportunity to talk, and hopefully we can sometime farther down the road, about some other topics too.
I would love to, but next time I want to go for a ride with you, and then we'll talk.
All right, we'll cross paths physically somewhere.
All right, man. I appreciate it. Have a great day. You're going on a bikepacking trip, aren't you?
I am. Yeah, going to head out just for 2 days or so. I haven't actually ridden for more than a few hours at a time since the Colorado Trail race ended a few weeks ago. So this will be a little bit of a test, but it's looking nice and pleasant and sunny in the mountains northeast of Gunnison. And so I'm going to go ride a little bit up there, do a little bit of scouting for a section of a new route that we're working on, that passes through that area, and ride some of Hefe Brenham's Loopy Loop trails that he's linked together for a fun event that he puts on that I think is just this weekend. So yeah,
cool.
couple reasons I want to get out up in that
Sweet,
area.
Man. Well, have a good trip. We'll send you on your way, and yeah, look forward to talking with you again.
All right. Sounds great, Patrick. Thanks so much.
All right, my friends, I hope you enjoyed that. I think you can tell that by the end of the show, I was getting really pumped up about everything that's going on at Bikepacking Roots. And I'm just going to make a personal appeal to you. Please go and set up a membership if you haven't already. Fill out their questionnaires. You know, just be involved. The things that they are trying to accomplish are vitally important, and they can't do anything if they don't have our support as a community. And if we want good access and good relationships with public lands, we need an organization like that is representing us and helping us to fight to keep or to gain new access or whatever it may be. So, I mean, the truth is like they're doing all the hard work. They're staying on top of issues that we need to be aware of. They're coordinating with people to give us access. They're doing all of the work. All we have to do is fill out some stuff online, join their membership, let our voice be heard, and give them the numbers and the support that they need to do their job. So I don't know what else I can say about that. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Hopefully you feel compelled to get involved and help to fight for and protect our public lands for bikepacking access. All right, and if you have been living under a rock and you haven't heard the exciting news, I am going to be at the Bikepacking Summit this year. That is going to be from October 4th through 6th at Mulberry Gap Mountain Bike Getaway in Elijah, Georgia. They've offered me the opportunity to be a ride leader on Thursday night, and of course I accepted. And they sent me over a list of options of routes, so it looks like they're going to have 4 different routes, 4 different ride leaders, and they gave me first pick, and I picked the hardest one. So, but I don't think it's going to be too challenging. I'll tell you a little bit about the route. It's 15.5 miles. It's going to be about 2,400 feet of elevation gain and 2,200 feet of descending. They estimate it's like an hour and a half, 2-hour ride, not too bad. There's going to be 4.5 miles of gravel climb, a fun and scenic single track descent on BC, that's Bear Creek, and a climby single track on Pinote. Oh man, I hope I say that right. Pinote 1. And flowy gravel finish to the campground. So I don't know the exact format. I don't know if I get to kind of lead the pace or how that's going to all work out. But more importantly, I'm going to be out there riding my bike, having fun, and hopefully meeting some of y'all. So if that sounds like a good time and you want to come hang out, ride bikes, and enjoy all the other presentations that are going to be going on and the sweet facilities that they have there at Mulberry Gap, head over to bikepackingsummit.com, get registered, and get ready to party and ride bikes. It's going to be a good time. Hope to see you there. All right. Well, like I said on the beginning of the show, again, I am very, very grateful for everybody who is and has been supporting the show, even just listening. I mean, the numbers are staggering of people that listen to the show from all over the world, and I'm truly grateful. If you want to support this show, I try to make it very easy. I have lots of options. I just set up a new one. First of all, you can find everything at my website at bikesordeath.com. So if you don't want to listen to me ramble, you can just head over there and pick your favorite. But I'm going to rattle through them really quick because I'm going to be honest, time is short. We are heading out on a bikepacking trip in West Virginia in a few days, and I just got a new bike, and I got to just like get my poop in a group. I got to get everything together and ready. And anyway, but I want to get this podcast out before I go. So anyway, if you want to support the show, here's how you do it. You go to my website, and the easiest way is through the Amazon affiliate link. All you have to do is click it, bookmark it, and use it every time that you shop online. And every time you do, I'm going to get a little cut. So far, I am up to $102.30, which is sweet. I appreciate that. So I think that's I love this option because it really is super easy. And if there was like, I know a lot of people shop on Amazon, so if like a bunch of people are using it, it doesn't cost you any money. I'm getting a little kickback and everybody's happy. So I really do like to push that as being a really easy way to support the show. Another one that I just launched is the PayPal donate button on my website. And some people have definitely taken advantage of that, and I'm very grateful to you. Thank you. Yeah, I like this idea because, you know, if there's a show that you like or if there's an episode that you like that you thought was really good, or you just, I don't know, got a bonus and you want to just kick a couple dollars my way and say thank you. One gentleman sent me $10 and he said, "Hey man, appreciate everything you're doing, and enjoy a couple beers on me." And I will, thank you. Actually, it's probably going to be whiskey, but you know, we're splitting hairs. So yeah, that's an easy way. One time, whenever you feel like it, whenever you got some extra cash or you think that an episode was good, you can use that donate button to just throw a few bucks my way. And then if you want to step up to the next level, that's Patreon. It's a monthly donation that you commit to. Anywhere from $1 up to $1 million a month. You get to pick. So I'm super appreciative of all my patrons that contribute monthly, whether it's $1 or $10 or whatever it is that you can give. It is really, yeah, it's nice. I don't know how to say it. I mean, I really do appreciate that you see the value and you feel confident. You want to support the show. Okay, and the last way that you can support the show is just through buying some sweet Bikes or Death merchandise. If you head over to the website, it's bikesordeath.com/store. You can find stickers, patches, and I am happy to announce that shirts have been ordered. They have been shipped and on their way to me. So I'm going to get that up on the website so people can go ahead and start ordering them. So yeah. Check back to the website, follow social media for any announcements on that, but I'm going to be getting that up on the website ASAP and then getting some shirts out to you lovely people. All right, that's it. Again, thank you for all of your support. 25 episodes in like 11 months. It's all because of you. I would definitely not be putting this much time and energy into it if it wasn't from all the support, the love, the messages, and everything that y'all do to support the show. So thank you. Keep it up. Let's keep it going and keep it growing. All right, listen, people. It doesn't matter what kind of bike, what kind of bags, where you like to ride, or how you like to ride. The only thing that matters is that you ride your damn bike.